Hi, welcome to the AIM on the MS&T Podcast. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, first off, welcome. We are happy to have you. Second, AIM stands for Academia, Industry, and Military, which are the main sectors that make up Central Florida's modeling, simulation, and training community. On our podcast, we talk with different leaders in the MS&T community. We also talk about all the cool and innovative things their organizations are doing, trends that affect the MS&T field as a whole, and keep you up to date with what's going on. This podcast is brought to you in part by Adaptive Immersion. Adaptive brings precision VR training and assessment to the world's most dangerous jobs. Recently awarded first place in the Navy Surface Warfare Challenge, their Trident platform is revolutionizing tactical training. Experience it yourself at ITSEC booth 269. If you are not a part of the modeling and simulation community, we hope to share some insights about this important sector of Orlando's economy, which ranks just behind the theme park and hospitality industry. I'm your host, Kate Finkel, and today we are talking with Captain Tim James, Commanding Officer of the Naval Air Warfare Center Training System Division, also known as NAWCTSD. Captain, thank you for joining us today. To get us started, could you tell us a little bit about your background? How did your Navy career put you on track to enter the modeling and simulation world?
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me today. Looking forward to the conversation. So my background has been very weird, diverse, and Navy standards. I started off at the Naval Academy. When I graduated, I went aviation. That's not my plan when I went in. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a pediatrician. As a kid, found out I didn't have any money for college or med school, so I was looking for somebody to pay for my education. So what got me into the Navy was financial need. So I went to the academy and found out that wasn't how you become a doctor either. Didn't really plan that one out. So pilot looked cool. My dad was a pilot, a civilian pilot, and it was exciting. He taught me to fly. So I picked that career path just because. No burning desire as a child. Yeah. But what made me stay was different than what got me in there. So I loved the mission, loved the people, and so I followed that through. Instead of my minimum commitment there of 5 to 7 years, here I am pushing 30 since I raised my hand. I went down to Pensacola Flight School, and then I got assigned to the S3 Viking. And even the day I got assigned it, we already knew that platform was sundowning. So I only got one tour in the Viking, flying out of Jacksonville. And then I had a decision to make, what am I going to do next? I ended up not transitioning to another plane. Instead, I went to run an anti-terrorism group out of Guam. So kind of what the Marine Corps fast teams do, that's what we tried to do with a Navy unit. So I did that, and then I transitioned there to a flag gate job. And then when I had kind of a built-in mentor as my admiral, he showed me the wisdom of getting into a community, because the Navy doesn't do good things to people that are just one-off fodder for whatever job opens up at the time. So he got me in front of some acquisition admirals, and that sounded like a great path forward. So I transitioned over to be an aerospace engineering duty officer. And I went from that posting in San Diego, went to Pax River to work for NavAir. And then from there, things got just as crazy. I became the first AEDO to go work at SOCOM in Tampa. And then I came back into NavAir again. So I bounced around a lot. I've never not moved. Every single 1 to 3 years of my career, and even before that, actually, I've always moved and never worked for the same place, even the same geographic area, 2 tours in a row. Yeah. Which is why next year I will be staying in Orlando. Okay. After changing command, I'm going to retire rather than take yet another move. It's now that it's optional. The family really loves it here. We're going to settle down. So what got me here was just that tremendous breadth of experience, but I didn't get pigeonholed into any one area. So after my tour at SOCOM, looking at timing-wise what the jobs open were, this one was the best option. I didn't really know NAWCTSD at that point. I didn't ever obviously work for TSD. So I came here and worked as a commander in our aviation directorate and started Ready Relevant Learning. And then I went back to Pax River because we can only escape there for so many times in my community. And then I competed to come back down because it was such a great job. It was the first place I've ever been twice, and I came down here to take command as skipper.
Thank you for explaining that. That is a great background story. Now that the audience has a little bit more insight into your backstory, can you please tell us more about NAWCTSD? How did it come to be, and how has its mission evolved into what it is today?
NAWCTSD's background I resonate with because it's kind of like mine. It was a little bit weird and all over the place and a lot of movement. So it actually started back in the 40s with a single person, Commander Flores, and it was in D.C. And then he quickly realized that one person couldn't train the Navy, or even a handful of people. So they moved over to Sands Point, which is now the Guggenheim Museum, and stood up the training activity there. So they were there about 20 years. Then they moved down to Orlando at what is now Baldwin Park, and we used to have a Navy base there.
Oh, yeah.
And worked there for about 20 years until that base was a victim of BRAC, and then relocated to a research park here. And this was the perfect place for this command to land at. This is the epicenter of the world for this kind of technology. All the other services have been attracted because of just the logical connection with industry, academia, government, and we plan on being here forever now. We've passed the 20-year curse of having to move.
Yeah. And
we're sitting here at 40 now.
Now that NAWCTSD has grown into its modern-day role, which projects, of course, that you can talk about, is it currently developing for the warfighter that shows potential as a game changer, either in improving readiness, increasing safety, or some other factors?
Across the board, we have hundreds of projects and programs going at any given time. So it's hard to narrow down to just a few. So I'll give a couple categories of the things that we're working on. As industry keeps pushing the envelope on kind of the Murphy's Law aspect of technology, we can afford both financially and space-wise and power-wise, the swap trade-off, to do more and more with less, whether it's less space, less power, less money. So that allows us to use that same training that used to take the size of a building, and now we can actually put it on a ship somewhere, or in a classroom it didn't fit, or we have the ability to take a single classroom, and now it's not just aviation training, but it can be rapidly reconfigurable and be any kind of training. So just the baseline technological advances are allowing us to do more with the existing aging infrastructure we have. So that's huge for the warfighter, and I don't think a lot of people understand how game-changing that is. Just being able to get the new advantages out of the new technology. But we do have a couple specific projects we can talk about. For the first time ever, we've been asked to put a couple training classrooms on board aircraft carriers.
Oh, wow.
So we've got our MERTS, our reconfigurable training system, that's in a classroom there. So now all parts of the aircraft carrier, whether that's the navigation crew or the air crew or anything, again, we can put any of those training devices onto this very advanced digital classroom. So that allows people that are either new, just got sent to their first ship ever, to come up to speed on their job, or people that have changed jobs or been around for a while to get refreshers. It brings the ability to put readiness out where the sailor is, instead of waiting for them to come off cruise and get their next round of training when they're shoreside. In that same vein, we have recently done a program called Sims at Sea, where we've put a number of simulators for the different types of airplanes in the air wing on board the carrier in a classified environment. So oddly enough, with all the new technology that's been rolled out, our airplanes, our missiles, our people can do more than they used to be able to do. So some of those capabilities are classified. We can't practice with them out in the open. So we'd recently discovered when we were sending strike groups to sea, their readiness was actually declining when they needed it most. They got all this great training shoreside, and then we put them on a boat, but all they could do out in the open when our adversaries were watching was the basics. Just take off and land, really basic maneuvers. They couldn't practice to the edge of the high fight envelope. But now with these classified simulators on board the carrier, they can not only learn that for the new guys, they can get proficient on it, they can do mission rehearsals, and just work on tactic, technique, procedure development. It's a capability the Navy's never had. So the more platforms that we can do like that, the better off for the warfighter.
That's very nice. As we are on the topic of projects, of course, one of the defining traits of the Team Orlando ecosystem is collaboration. Much more than other industries, are there any projects that your organization right now is collaborating with another partner that you're super excited about?
Well, number one, I'm always super excited about the Naval Service collaboration. So a lot of people don't realize, even though the Marine Corps PM for training is here in Orlando, they focus on ground training. NAVAIR, NAWCTSD, does their air training already. So we're always collaborating. That's our baseline environment, is to collaborate, especially with our sister service there. But we're always looking for opportunities for the other services. We like to talk about the importance of Team Orlando, so that if you can award one contract and have two people order off of it, you doubled your efficiency. So anytime that we have the opportunity to do that, it doesn't matter how big and fancy it is, it saves time and resources that can be reinvested somewhere else. So it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving, has multiple orders of impact down the road. So I'm always excited to work with any of the other government agencies around here.
Expanding on our previous discussion, looking towards the future, what kind of projects and collaborations would you like to see NAWCTSD involved with? Maybe perhaps representing new ground where it hasn't gone before.
So at this time, I wouldn't say there's any technology area we haven't gone before. But what makes NAWCTSD special isn't that we're an expert in any one given thing. That we're the expert of the science of learning, picking the right levels of fidelity or delivery, but we always have to team up with somebody that is the best in those areas. So with some of the new emerging tech that keeps coming out, and it's coming out faster and faster, being able to team with any organizations like that, and it's often industry, right? Not another government agency, because they have the same problem we do.
Yeah.
So everybody's all in on artificial intelligence, right? We're trying to team with companies that can show us how we can roll that into our business of the business. So whether that's creating or evaluating proposals, as well as into the actual business that we do, the warfighting aspect. If we can embed artificial intelligence into our trainers, they can either auto-grade students, they can take over control of the constructive entities, show us a picture from the bad guy that we didn't think about programming in. It also allows you to do something unscripted that you never planned on doing before, whether it's a mission rehearsal or a tactic technique development, and have a response already built into the system that I didn't have to think of already, because that doesn't help me fight myself. I need to know how the enemy's going to react or how an unpredictable entity would react. And artificial intelligence is bringing all those capabilities at our fingertips in every one of our training devices.
With that being said, how has the Tech Bridge and Tech Grove contributed into these technologies?
So Tech Bridge, Tech Grove is an outstanding capability that Team Orlando has down here. For those that aren't familiar, that is our easiest, prolific way to engage with industry, and not just traditional industry, right? The large OEMs of the world have never had a hard time interacting with the Navy. An OEM is an original equipment manufacturer. They're super large defense contractors. But what about those companies that have never done a single thing with the military, or don't want to go under the stress of it in a background check coming through the gates, things like that? So we've placed this organization outside the gate. It comes with authorities that have allowed us to do things like prize challenges, hackathons, any kind of PIA awards, different acquisition authorities you find in a lot of places. And that enables us, open up that suite of tools and engage with anybody that has a solution for us, not just the traditional defense contractor. So as an example, when we were talking about using AI, we used the Tech Grove to do both of those prize challenges, to put AI into the creation of an RFP, as well as now we're going to, this year at ITSEC, award a prize for 3 companies to tell us how to streamline evaluating those proposals. And these aren't all-in solutions, right? We're not going to have bot A and bot B, and then we don't need TSD anymore.
Right.
But they get you that 80% solution. Those are the 2 biggest time sinks on the government side of the acquisition pipeline. So if I can start with an 80% solution in 10 seconds, as opposed to taking 10 weeks to get to that point, that's, again, resources I can reinvest into the next big thing. Whether that's just straight labor money savings to go into product, or time where I can work on another program coming down the road. Either way, that is a huge benefit to the warfighter and to the employees here and Team Orlando.
Switching to current events, what do you see going on in the world right now that you think will likely have the greatest potential impact on national security, and by extension could possibly affect NAWCTSD's mission focus in the near future? So
there's so much going on in the world today. Everybody sees it every time you turn on the news, or try to avoid the news and it still makes it into your social media feed, etc. One of the things that would reinforce a point that we've been trying to make for years is that the future of warfighting is iteration speed, it's agility, it's the ability to think differently, get the bureaucracy out of the way, get results. So I'm watching the Ukraine conflict as a great example of how we've got to be more agile in the face of adversity. So ever since I worked at SOCOM, Hondo Gertz used to be my boss there, and he's been talking about it for a decade, right? Iteration speed and agility, that's where the future's at. Long gone are the days we're just going to have an ever-increasing defense budget, so we're going to have to find a way to get more out of that existing or even declining budget. So if I can take $10 into 2 $5 sprints as opposed to one long $10 program, that's going to be the biggest bang for the buck going forward, I think,
right,
to impact ongoing operations and improve the warfighter's quality of life.
As we come to an end, what advice would you offer someone who wanted to get into the modeling and simulation field? More specifically, how could military service help position someone toward that goal?
So I'll start with the first question, which I see a little different than the second. If you want to get into the MS&T ecosystem, this is a great collaborative group. You could really just talk to anybody in Team Orlando and they can help you. But I would recommend, from the NAWCTSD lens, we have a tremendous outreach program all the way from 5th grade at the Starbase with Team Orlando, and we have a way to engage with those same people from 5th grade all the way through your PhD till you're an employee here at NAWCTSD. So reach out to anybody at NAWCTSD, reach out to me, and depending on where you are in your career, we can plug you in with the right internship, STEM outreach, summer camp, employment, whatever. So lots of ways to get involved with the community. Another one, as we're staring ITSEC right around the corner, there's scholarship opportunities if you want to get into the MS&T field.
That's true.
So if finance is your hurdle, maybe you can compete for one of those scholarships and break in that way. And then you will automatically be earmarked as somebody in this community we want to track, retain, and make successful.
Yeah.
For the military, again, I'll speak specifically to the Navy, we are struggling to get everything we need with the resources we have. And right now, there's not a huge push to open up this career field. We do have ways in. If anybody's looking for a graduate degree, Navy Postgraduate School has a program called MOVES. That's about modeling and simulation, so that gets you that great education background, but then you're still going to have to find a way to get orders to a place like NAWCTSD. We don't have a dedicated career field for this specialty at this time. As this technology becomes more prolific through everything that we do, not just training, I won't be surprised if the Navy gets to the point where they get that subspecialty designator and kind of do a closed-loop detail. But at this point, I don't know of any plans for that. It's just a hope of mine. But if you are military and you want to get involved, please reach out to myself or the XO here at NAWCTSD, and we'll make sure that we're talking with your detailer of any opportunities we have in the future.
Captain, thank you for joining us today and sharing your story. For everyone listening, to keep you updated on future events in the modeling and simulation community, check out our website, teamorlando.org. You'll also find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for more recent news and upcoming events. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode of AIM on MS&T or being a featured guest, please reach out to Team Orlando News. The link will be below. We are now going to end this episode here. Again, I'd like to thank our guest, Captain Tim James, Commanding Officer of the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division, for joining us today.
All right, well, thanks for having me on, and as always, I want to make sure everybody is tracking the Army-Navy game coming up here in a couple weeks. So go Navy, beat Army.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to follow the AIM on MS&T podcast on your platform of choice. We will see you in the next one. Bye!